Hi, my name's Anna Serin, and I'm Director of Listings Development with the Canadian Securities Exchange. You're joining me here today as part of the Summit on Responsible Investment online series. I'm joined by one of our CSE listed issuers, PreveCeutical Medical, and I'm joined by the CEO, Steve Van Deventer. Thank you for joining us, Steve.
Thank you very much for having me.
Tell us about PreveCeutical.
So PreveCeutical is a little bit of a spin-off from pharmaceuticals, nutraceuticals, and then PreveCeuticals for preventive health.
Okay.
So the idea behind it was creating preventative and curative therapies rather than band-aid situations that have been going on for years.
Absolutely. You're based all over BC, but you're a listed company in BC, right?
We're a Vancouver, BC listed company.
Okay.
And we have two subsidiaries, a wholly owned subsidiary in Australia, which is PreveCeutical Australia, Pty Ltd.
Okay.
And that's where we do a majority of our research and development over there.
Okay.
And just recently, from one of the companies, we have taken an asset and moved out into Biogene Therapeutics Inc. is an Austin, Texas listed company, which is a majority owned company of PreveCeutical.
I love that. Texas and Australia and Vancouver, great locations. Okay, let's talk about some of the products and technologies that you guys are working on.
There's really two platform technologies that build out all the different technologies we have. So the first platform is Sol Gel, which is basically a liquid, and then you spray it into your nasal cavity, and the second it hits the mucosa under the brain by the olfactory area, it instantaneously turns to gel because it's thermally reactive from the temperature. So that is basically a way to deliver any form of genetics or drugs to the brain.
Okay.
So that is one of the base technologies. The second base technology is the linker technology. And the linker technology is a way to take any type of drugs and develop them. So right now when they synthesize drugs, they take them, it's more in a linear pattern. They say there's these molecules, they just add them together in a basically a linear manner. And if you take any biologics and you create a synthetic product, generally they're not always the same. They're similar, but not exactly the same. Our linker technology allows us to take the molecules and put them together in a 3D, like hexagon looking wise, and have the different molecules, different areas, parts. So when you put our synthetic version down next to the biologics, you really can't tell the difference. Okay. And so that forms a way for us to synthesize. The third one, which is not really a platform, it's for our gene therapy, is LNPs, lipid nanoparticles, which is basically a carrier system to take genetics from once you put it into the nasal cavity, from there to get it to the gene in the brain by protecting it. The reason why we have the LNPs that we created, any gene therapy today is being used by viruses. They take a virus, it takes weeks to culture, then you can only put a certain amount in because it's a very small amount. We've created one that's off the shelf, we don't have to culture it. We can put the genetics in it and program it where it needs to go.
Wow.
Carry at least 20 to 100 times more cargo depending on what it is. And while going to that genetic, it's protected, and when it releases the cargo to the gene, the actual LNPs are made out of amino acids, so it adds nutrients to your body rather than a virus shift and I'll fight off. Wow. So those are the three baselines for our 4 different programs. Okay. The first program we have is a BSV, which is a blue scorpion venom. It's been proved basically to work for cancer and a lot of things, not in a pharmaceutical way, in a nutraceutical way. So we have now taken that to basically start to use that in the pharmaceutical area. We're ready for clinical trials on that, but we've decided there's some other priorities prior to that. The second technology we have is a non-addictive analgesic. And the non-addictive analgesic, we've actually been written up in some journals. One is Lumers, which is independent review, peer review out of Switzerland, and they basically said that it's stronger than any opioids, morphine and heroin. However, it doesn't do multiple things. 1, you can't get addicted. 2, you cannot overdose. 3, you cannot create tolerance, means you have to continue to take more and more and more. But more importantly, I think that's important to those, is you can't get high. People take drugs to get high. Now, yes, maybe you won't overdose, maybe you won't get addicted, but still going to abuse it.
Right.
So those are the 4 factors on the non-addictive analgesic, and we're ready for clinical trials on that.
That's very interesting. I mean, obviously, finding alternatives to opioid as far as its use is something that we have been working on as a society and recognize, I think, the importance of it. And we've seen a few situations over the past few decades that have really shown that we need to find alternatives. So this is
Correct.
very interesting.
That's one of the big things that we refocused on this. So we're ready for clinical trials on that. And then our third technology we have is the Sol Gel, which can deliver different type of, as I said, therapeutics to the body. So we announced that we're going to be working on a program for Parkinson's. Okay. We have put a program together. We're in the process of implementing that, and I can't say too much more exactly where we are, but within the next few weeks we should be able to have some news telling you what's happening with that, and basically delivering dopamine to the brain. So we know that people with Parkinson's, their dopamine goes up and down, and that's why they have these different issues. So we can deliver sustained delivery. Now the Sol Gel is basically squirted in each nostril, and it'll sustain deliver up to 7 days. So it's not a daily thing. So pain medication, 7 days if you want. Antibiotics, instead of taking a pill every single day, we can give it to you for 7 days.
Right.
We're targeting with dopamine or L-Dopa, which is the precursor for Parkinson's, to stabilize that.
Wow, that's incredible, Steve.
Yes, it's a really, and these can be, so we can deliver our non-addictive analgesic here, we can deliver our BSV, and then of course the last program I discussed, so we call it the DNO, which stands for diabetes and obesity, dual gene therapy, because we're dealing with 2 things. We're targeting the PTP1B gene in the brain. It's a gene that has been well discussed over the last 20 to 25 years. People have tried to target it for many things, but it have failed. And the reason why they failed, they couldn't get bioavailability, meaning how much of the drug got into that gene. I've looked at some people that tried it 20 years ago, and they got about 3%. The issue that they had is once they got the siRNAs, which is a short interference RNA, that we're sending to the PTB1 gene, and then our LNPs will release the siRNAs in there to basically silence the gene specifically for diabetes and obesity. So we are targeting, for diabetes and obesity for both of these. And the important part about it is that we can silence the gene by 50%. We can eliminate diabetes and obesity.
Unreal.
Like the Ozempic drugs are doing, Ogagoni. However, the advantage for that is we're delivering 1/100th of the dose. Okay. There's less toxicity, and we're actually targeting the master switch of the body. So all the genes in your body are a master switch. Right. And then if you can change them, like for example, people that are anorexic, it's underexpressed. We can ask it to overexpress.
Wow, that's incredible.
If you're extremely obese, we can tell you to underexpress it. Right. So from there are many therapeutics. Once we prove that out and we can start to have a drug on that, we just now need to figure out what the sequences are for other diseases.
Right, absolutely. This is incredible. I mean, it seems like there's many different areas that you're working on. What are some of the challenges that you're finding in healthcare right now that these will all help resolve?
The health industry is a tough one. You know, there is big pharma out there. There's people with big money that target what they want is their therapeutics to go through. So it's quite hard to break into that area. However, there has been a shift in the last couple of years where people looking for curative items or preventive items, not just a Band-Aid as a solution.
Absolutely.
And so that shift we see happening, and it's going more into precision medicine. So people like, when you take a painkiller, it doesn't matter if you're going to SoRI in your knee or if it's SoRI arthritis or whatever, we're using our technology to be precision. So we're only affecting that problem. So all the drugs are not going through your GI tract, your gastrointestinal tract, which goes through your liver, your kidneys, and damage all these things. Right. So ours are going to target in the genetics to eliminate the problems.
Do you think recently President Donald Trump came out and said that he is going to be mandating a reduction in the cost of pharmaceuticals in the U.S. Do you think that once that gets implemented, do you think that will help some of these developments be able to come and have a better light in the market?
I agree with that. That's a good statement you make there. It is going to affect costs in the United States, but pharmaceuticals, the United States is 350 million people, and we have 8 billion people in the world. Yes, they're making a lot of money from that, but it will affect the place that now let's find things that are next generation.
Right.
Because now, you see, this drug that's been out forever, and we're charging Americans, say, $30 a pop, and we're charging somebody else $1 a pop.
Yep.
There's an issue there.
Yeah.
Having next generation drugs where, well, no one else has done this before, this is the future.
Yeah.
They can't reduce it 80% because it's what it is.
Absolutely. I think also, one transition that we're starting to see, and this is when we talk about sustainability or responsible investments, is this idea around preventative healthcare. I think this is a really important transition. I think we're starting to see this a lot more in Canada. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
This idea around the more that we can put into preventative work within, our healthcare, the less we'll have to put in after the fact. Is this a trend that you're starting to see?
Well, if you look at some of the ads on TV, they talk about being preventive from work accidents.
Right.
They talk about the Workers' Compensation Board have these ads that saying prevention, don't do this, don't hurt your back this way. So there is a transition in the area of the work fields, but it's slowly starting to seep into the medical industry as well.
Right.
So as you said, precision medicine is very important, but also curative as well.
Right.
So prevention is great. We can stop it from happening. And then if it does happen, how can we cure the issue?
Absolutely. Okay, if we're going to be looking at PreveCeuticals, and it sounds like we should be paying attention to press releases you're putting out this summer, where can people find information about you?
Well, first of all, there's PreveCeutical's website, which is PreveCeutical.com is the one. And then if you want to, more importantly, if you go into the investor section, there's a section that has our presentation decks there,
Wonderful.
Which gives all the different programs. And then there's also BioGene Therapeutics, which is biogenetherapeutics.com, which is it was just released that website about last week or maybe the week before.
Okay.
And it has all of the different scientists and people that we've actually. Part of the reason why we it's not a spin out, because spin out is a technical term, but but we moved it out into a company that is owned by PreveCeutical. The reason why we did that is we've got these 4 beautiful assets that have all been successful. Mm-hmm. So why we started 4 in the first place is the scientists I was about 10 years ago I wasn't in the medical industry. All of a sudden this year, October this year will be 10 years, and they said to me, take on more than one, Steve, because if it fails, which most likely most of them do, you'll have no asset, your shareholders will be burnt.
Right.
So take on 2, maybe 3. So I thought, let's do 4.
Right.
We've been blessed that all 4 have been successful to date.
Amazing.
And each one of these are standalone companies. So hence why the first one that's being put out is the BioGene. Yeah. And now what I've done is I've brought in a whole new team that specializes in gene therapy, siRNAs, and that type of technology, so we can advance that. And the whole plan, as I've said publicly before, is we're going to be the same with other ones in the same manner we did with BioGene.
Amazing. I love it. Listen, Steve, I think this is an incredible thing that you've been working on, and we will continue to watch you at the CSE. Thank you for participating in the Summit on Responsible Investment.
Thank you very much.
And we look forward to seeing what you guys are going to do next.
Well, we hope to do a lot of great things and please our shareholders, and obviously the stage that we're on at the CSE.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.